Hi, this is Tamsen Granger.
And this is Dan Abuhoff.
With Tamsen and Dan, read the paper. Are you comfortable?
Yeah, sure.
On August 18th, 2019, it's a Sunday. One might call it a steamy Sunday.
Right. So we went to the beach yesterday. We haven't done that for a long time. Jones Beach.
Yeah, for a week.
Well, we haven't been to Jones Beach
we
for a long time.
went to Jones Beach.
Right.
One of the great public places, one of the great beaches in the universe.
Right. True. So we went...
to get there...
we went by... Well, first of all, to get
there, you have to sit in the car forever.
And we take the...
Because you have to go through Long Island. You have to go through Staten Island or New York or somehow, and you end up on the Belt Parkway.
Right.
Also known as the Belt Parking Lot.
Yeah, it's bad.
And it's always slow. And we've been doing this for years because we used to go out and visit Dan's parents out on Long Island. And it's a skinny island. There are only a couple ways to get there. And most of them involve sitting in the car for hours, even though it's not that far. Because there are a lot of cars. And we have always noticed along the way, so you're going along the Belt Parkway, not exactly a great natural landscape, would you say?
It's awful.
It's awful, generally. I mean, at a certain point you pass by Coney Island, so you see a few, exciting rides, right? You see the bits of the parachute jump in the distance.
I'm driving. I don't see that. The Belt Parkway is awful. It's always jammed.
You won't get an argument from me. You don't see much when you're driving.
Right.
That's true. And we have always marveled at a certain point in this pretty much urban landscape with a little bit of water vista in the distance.
Yeah.
A riding academy.
Yeah, I mean, we just passed by it. It's got a sign that says Riding Academy, but you can't see anything.
It just seems completely... It's just on the side of the road.
Yes, in the most urban environment imaginable, except you're near the water. But in any event, so there was an article in the paper about it. Is there anything interesting about it or not?
The New York Times, in an article called Summer in the City, Riding on the Beach, tells you to go there, to the Jamaica Bay Riding Academy.
Yeah.
And in fact, I spied the exit. They're very careful to tell you where the exit is. And apparently you can go there and go for a 50-minute ride through, like dunes and marshes and, along the seaside there. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of an interesting idea. It's $65 in cash, $75 if you pay with a card. And it's first come, first serve kind of thing.
Have you ever seen a horse from the road?
I have seen people on horses nearby. They have lessons there as well, okay? It's not on the road. They're not going to be on the highway with us.
I understand.
They're along the side.
I've never seen a horse there.
So maybe it's something we should do. But, there are all sorts of great contradictions in New York City.
I'll say, but the idea that
there was a big article on great hikes,
yeah,
like natural hikes to take within the confines of New York City.
And they quoted like Walt Whitman about all the great secrets of the city, but that was some time ago. But yeah,
no, there's still some surprises available.
They're in the outer boroughs, but yes. But in any event, the Belt Parkway
Manhattan as well
doesn't hold much magic for me. But if they have a riding academy, they have a riding academy. But the fact is, we get out to Jones Beach. We love Jones Beach, so I would say it's probably worth the ride, although you can't do it every weekend. And we did run into a seagull article this week. It wasn't about Jones Beach, it was about Jersey. But there was one town that they were getting inundated with seagulls.
Ocean City,
New Jersey.
New Jersey.
Yeah.
And, they have a great boardwalk with all kinds of food.
Yeah, that's where you get the seagulls.
The seagulls have gotten super aggressive. They just dive down.
I can see that. They do that.
And grab the pizza right out of your box.
Yeah. We saw some of that in Block Island. They were very aggressive.
Yeah, well, not that aggressive.
Well,
but so much so that the different stores, the food stores, have a sign saying,
beware the seagulls.
Watch out, hang on to your food. The seagulls have a great strategy. When you open your box with like a pizza in it or something, one of them dives down and tries to grab a slice.
Yeah.
And then when you're surprised and back away, 50 other seagulls come along and just take over the pizza, so you can't get anywhere near it.
Well, the solution in Ocean City is to get some predator birds, in particular hawks.
Raptors.
Raptors?
Raptors, you call them, yes.
Yeah.
Falcons, even owls.
Yeah.
And so Ocean City, New Jersey has hired a company called East Coast Falcons for $2,100 a day. And the predator birds theoretically scare away the seagulls. So again, that seems like a potential great business, doesn't it? Okay.
If you're a falcon, you've got it made.
Well, I'm just saying to our nature friends, Harry, Kathy Easton.
Yeah. Well, Harry's
here's another retirement venture idea lurking in the wings.
Harry's told me that the owls won't work. He said they're not going to blink when they see an owl, but apparently the seagulls see a falcon or a raptor, as you put it, and they're out of there.
I wonder how they do that with owls anyway, because aren't they nocturnal? I mean, what do? You have to wake them up and say, okay, guys, we're working during the day today.
I guess so.
Maybe they get overtime.
I think if they're paid enough, they're not nocturnal. They're diurnal. So in any event, we had a great time at Jones Beach. It's just a beautiful vista. It's hard to beat. We recommend it.
Can I tell you something about Jones Beach?
Sure.
Remember there used to be nude beaches?
Vaguely.
Oh. Well, I remember.
Yeah, obviously.
And apparently those were outlawed.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Really?
In 2014.
Really?
And because I read some article about nudity in American culture.
Yeah.
And they were talking about the proliferation of nudity at places like beaches like that. And apparently, it's a state beach or whatever. So they nixed that.
Well, that's interesting. So
they also mentioned nudity at Woodstock.
Well, that's a great lead-in for Woodstock. Just to talk briefly, but the article that you mentioned is one with they say something triggered this. I thought it was a guy at Woodstock or some other big event walking around naked, and there was some photograph.
Yeah.
So we're not going to talk about nudity at Woodstock because I'm talking about it primarily. You would focus in on that, but not me. I'm going to
apparently nudity is not in at the moment.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of, freedom, love, and stuff that Woodstock was about that's not in. Maybe that will come up in a few different pieces here. But in any event, you tell me everyone's talking about Woodstock or have because it's the 50th anniversary, so we don't have to dwell on that. Just a couple of things. The Times had some great coverage of this. I got to give the Times credit when I should because I criticize them so much. And the Times, they summarized everything pretty well. They talked about the great acts that were there. Some huge stars at the time. Jimi Hendrix, #1, Sly and the Family Stone, Janis Joplin, Creedence Clearwater. But the article also made clear, and there were a lot of interviews, that there were groups that we all take as big stars that weren't then. They were unknown, like Santana was unknown. The Who was not known in this country. And, of course, Joe Cocker was not known in this country. And it made them stars. But the other thing is that the question is, what was the significance of it really? I mean, did it really matter? Was it a fantastic political event? They had an interview with Joan Baez. She says there's nothing political about it. These people, they were kids. She was 28. They didn't understand anything about politics. They were just partying. She was kind of disgusted with the whole thing. But, in fairness, they did also talk to David Crosby. And his quote is, he said, look, I'll stick up for it. I will embarrass myself and be a hippie and say, yes, there was something completely different going on for a second. And that's fair. That's about it. It was anarchy. It was like a city with no rules. It had no drug rules, obviously. People were using illicit drugs. No one was there. The government wasn't in charge. And yes, there was a sensibility against the Vietnam War, and there was an open to possibilities. Do you make too much of it? I wouldn't make too much of it. No.
But it also didn't work. There was no plumbing, there was no food.
Oh, it was a disaster.
There were all kinds of failures.
Yeah. I read too, 6 people got killed, which I didn't realize. One guy got run over by a tractor. There were, of course, drug overdoses. It was a mess. It's a total mess. And maybe we'll have Bob on some point. My brother Bob was supposed to go. I've seen his tickets. It cost, $15, $18 a ticket to go to Bethel, New York for this concert. And they closed the New York Thruway. He never got up there. A lot of people didn't. And they mentioned that.
But it is a cultural touchstone.
It is. Maybe
for many people of our generation.
Well, it stood out, and I think it stands out rightfully. Look, the last thing I'll just say about it, and I'll just recommend it, and I may like this more than you. I thought the movie was great. And it's a documentary of a rock concert. Some people think it's the best documentary of a rock concert ever. That's a matter of taste. But it's not like I was, dying to see Sly and the Family Stone, but they were great. And I thought it was amazing. And one other quote that they had in the paper, they talked to Sha Na Na, who's in it, strangely, because they do 50s doo-wop music, and they do it in the movie. And they said, listen, we didn't get paid anything because the concert was a financial disaster. And we didn't get even paid any movie stuff because even though they made money on the movie, they cut us out. But you know something? We're in the best rock documentary of all time, and that's enough for me. So if you get a chance to see the movie, I would see it.
Okay. So on the other end of the spectrum, great, fun article in the Sunday business section of the New York Times, channeling and spreading the founder's vision at Momofuku. And it's about a young CEO is the guiding force that makes David Chang's growing restaurant empire work. And that is Marguerite Zabar Mariscal, who is 30 years old.
But the name is Zabar is in there, so that's a tip.
The name of Zabar is in there. Okay,
so
I mean, just let's review. David Chang has got this huge restaurant empire now. They say that Momofuku and its restaurant revenue is approaching $100 million a year. Right. And he's got the video stuff, Ugly Delicious. They're in all their kind of ventures. They want to venture into offering retail items, their own soy sauce and spices, etc. They're going off in, great guns all over the world. And at the helm is this very young, interesting woman. And whereas David Chang is sort of the soul of it and, sort of the inspiration, she is the person that really, she's the executive who makes it all work. And you're right. She's from the Zabar family. Louis and Lillian, she's the great-granddaughter of Louis and Lillian Zabar. And we know Zabar's as, the wonderful food store on the Upper West Side of New York.
Yeah, but
that claims to have introduced brie, sun-dried tomatoes, and caviar.
But what is it when we go to the place near the Met Museum on the east side? It's Eli Zabar's. What's that called?
Well, yeah, the family's all over. There's been all kinds of splits.
Yeah, right.
I'm not even familiar with the whole where the company
but they're a huge
is
empire
now.
of their own.
Oh yeah, I mean obviously. But anyway, famous store. So food business
grew up in the food
in
business.
their blood.
Yeah.
No doubt about that. Her father was an architect, actually.
Really?
Well, the Zabar side is her mother's side of the family. Okay, Marguerite Zabar Mariscal, and but she grew up eating food all over the place. Being carted out to Brooklyn to try new crazy places, and of course she grew up with that whole Zabar's eating tradition. But she started working for Momofuku when she was in 2011 as an intern. And she starts out in social media, helping people manage that. That's not an unusual position for a young person in a new business, to manage the social media. One thing leads to another, and she gets her finger in, a variety of pies, so that by about 6 years ago, not even 6 years, but 4 years ago, Chang is promoting her as the possible CEO to his board. Okay, so that means, she's just in her mid-20s. But she just turns out to be able to kind of articulate, crystallize, activate Chang's very original, interesting, and, what would you say, I don't know, quirky ideas into a format that works. She's helped him turn around restaurants. She's sort of the keeper of the flame in terms of making sure that everyone hews to his ideas and philosophies. Because it's a big company. How can everybody know what they're trying to do? But anyway, it's a great article in the New York Times, Sunday Times, about Marguerite Zabar Mariscal, and she seems just terrific and a great businesswoman. Oh, let me just mention this. The article points out that it's actually not that unusual for a woman to be in charge of the day-to-day operations, making these great food empires work. And in the article it mentioned that, for instance, Jose Andres Food Group business, the CEO is Kimberly Grant, who runs the day-to-day businesses of that. Tom Colicchio's, main man is a woman. Katie Greco. Lois Friedman is running Jean-Georges von Gerichten's restaurant group. Eric Repair is his famous Bernardin is co-owned by a French woman who he terms as the spirit and the boss. So this seems to be an interesting kind of marriage of abilities. With these men being the creative forces and the women running the business.
Okay.
A little bit unheralded. Interesting to hear.
I don't know what's heralded and what's not, honestly, because...
Were you aware that...
I don't know most of the restaurant people you mentioned either. So, okay. I'm certainly familiar with the Zabar name, that's for sure. Britain. Oh, this is a completely different subject. Britain bans 2 TV ads over sexist stereotypes. Okay, so this is the opposite of Woodstock, right? So Woodstock is like anything can happen, there's freedom, whatever. Everybody makes up their own mind. So there are rules in Britain now, which have resulted in 2 ads being banned. And the rules are that you can't have advertisements that have in them harmful gender stereotypes. They won't let you show the ads.
Okay.
So they have an ad from a local branch of Volkswagen that have men engaged in adventurous activities. And the 2 women depicted in the ad were asleep in a tent, I guess they were going camping, and sitting by a baby carriage. They said that reinforced gender stereotypes. The ad's banned. They had another ad here from Mondelez, which is a cheese spread, and you have 2 distracted young fathers in a restaurant who appeared, quote, unable to care for children effectively, end of quote. Again, gender stereotypes. Banned. People can't see these ads because it's harmful. Because
they just strike me as stupid.
I'm not going to argue that.
Yeah,
they might be stupid.
The idea that...
somebody wrote, the people who did the first ad in particular said, well, the women are camping. I mean, they're camping. They're in a tent. I mean, that's not adventurous. But in any event, people sit there in judgment and say, Well,
maybe it's just a British thing because, in the U.S., you see all kinds of commercials with men specifically in very stereotypical female roles. You see men with, babies in the snuggly, discussing miscellaneous things. See, there's one, kind of unsettling one of a man changing a baby's diaper on a park bench.
Really? I can see the logic of that. Even if you think it's unusual, that's a good thing for an ad, right? People pay attention to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, but it's funny that they have a law about...
Well, yeah, it's more than funny. It's crazy. So people are sitting there going, I don't know, this seems to me this is what men do, really? I don't know. It's strange that you would actually have rules.
You don't want little girls thinking that you can't.
You go.
That you have to get out of the tent. You can't get out of the tent.
I don't think that was the message that they couldn't get out of the tent. But okay. I don't know. It seems to be pretty thin. But I don't know. People, it's just odd for me that you would actually ban it and worry about gender stereotyping.
Okay, so just a little follow-up on those murals in San Francisco. The ones, now I'm going to blank on, it's The Life of Washington. painted 13 frescoes painted by Victor Arnautoff in the hallways of the George Washington High School in San Francisco. It was painted during the 1930s by a Russian emigre who was somewhat of a communist, who was definitely a communist, okay?
Right.
And people had been raising, for many years, people have been raising the issue that some of these scenes in the frescoes were offensive because they showed Washington with slaves working in his fields at Mount Vernon. They also showed a dead Native American. And so there have been objections going back to the 60s and the Black Panthers. We talked about this before. And so people had been demanding that these murals be destroyed. Now, there's a lot of controversy, huge, heated controversy about this. And the school board recently voted not to destroy the murals, but to simply cover them up.
Right.
And there's still tremendous objection to this, that these should be destroyed because they are so offensive.
But there are objections on both sides now. So that's a compromise. So on the one hand, the people who were against the murals think they should be destroyed, and they're awful and they're offensive. And the people who are for the murals think they should be seen. And now you've got neither. Now you've got them covered up and they're not destroyed.
But I think even if you're for the murals, doesn't mean you're for
you're for them being seen.
The offensive actions.
No, but you're for them being seen. You think they shouldn't be covered up.
Right.
And they have those people in the article. And it is, look, I don't want to take two sides too strongly, but the idea of destroying the murals is crazy. And the idea of covering up is kind of crazy too. The guy, and they say in the article, and they said in the previous article, it's not like the person who put these murals together was racist at all. He was pointing up that this kind of thing went on, that Washington, was the scourge of these Native Americans in a harsh way. That's what he was doing. And yet no one can abide by it.
Yes, actually he was trying to point out that Washington wasn't the fair-haired child that we imagined. Right,
and yet
that he did have...
but you feel that that's getting lost in the shuffle here.
Right, that we're trying to tell the story with a little more truth.
Right.
But, you simply can't, again, this goes back to all the destruction of art that is even happening today. You can't destroy art for any particular point of view at any moment.
Well, apparently, I agree with you.
You can't, that's like trying to destroy the history.
Right.
Okay? You don't destroy the history because it's offensive. Look, it's important to acknowledge it.
I agree with you, but that vote passed by a sliver. A sliver. You say you can't destroy. You can. They came pretty close to doing it, but they didn't. At least not for now. And I'm sure it will come up for vote again a year or two. I mean, that issue is not dead.
Once you open the door that anyone can decide what's offensive, things can go.
I agree with you, but I don't. I think you're going to hear about this a lot more. I do think you're going to hear about this issue a lot more. This kind of issue, not necessarily the murals. San Francisco may be tired of it, but. Yeah. Okay. So, I want to talk about mopeds. Tell me what you think about this. Because I guess I'm saying everything's crazy now. So, they're going to go from ride sharing on city bikes in New York City to moped sharing.
Did they ever decide about e-bikes?
Yeah, e-bikes are going to be allowed.
I think if once you say you can have e-bikes, you're saying
okay,
you
I
have
the answer to that.
What?
Okay, e-bikes by law are limited to how fast they can go, and the answer is about 15 miles an hour.
Okay.
Mopeds can go 35 miles an hour. Now, why is that important? Because the city speed limit is 25. So the e-bikes can't hit the speed limit, and the mopeds exceed the speed limit.
That doesn't mean they will.
No, it doesn't. But the idea of adding them to the landscape creates a different environment.
Here's a problem.
Yeah.
What do they run on?
I don't know what they run on. I honestly don't know. I'm sure they run on gasoline primarily.
Right.
Yeah.
And the e-bikes, are electric. They're leaving an entirely different...
But listen, but it's not e-bike versus moped. No one's interposing those as choices. They're completely different universes.
No, but I'm just saying...
you'd rather have the e-bikes. I'd rather have the bicycles. But even now, I actually interviewed someone this week who was involved in the so-called zero something initiative. I forget exactly what it's called. And it's the initiative of...
Zero carbon? Or...
No. Yeah. It's a traffic initiative. Not to have traffic initiatives.
Right. Yeah.
And I said, the only problem with that is the bicycles, right? You have these bicycle accidents. I said, they can't do anything about the bicycle accidents. They're stymied by that. Well, yeah, because you're introducing a different kind of vehicle who's operating a different way in these fairly narrow streets. The moped, look, we'll see. But wow, we have our experience in Block Island. What do people say about the mopeds in Block Island?
That they're a disaster.
Right.
They're dangerous. They constantly take you by surprise because they are running at different speeds.
You know what else? I don't think you need a license to drive a moped. I'm pretty sure you don't.
Okay. So it sounds like a disaster.
Well, we'll see. So,
but on a lighter note, a more positive note.
There's this. We were going to talk about these bays.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. Is that
it's
more positive
note?
Well, it's a business for
business
for your brothers.
For my brothers.
See, we can find a business for your brothers and everybody else, but not us.
My brothers, if they'd been taking our advice, would be millionaires by now.
There's no question about it. And anybody who would take our advice would be millionaires. But we can't find anything.
Except the people who are betting on horse races.
Oh, that's true. But we can't find anything for ourselves. If anyone can write in with ideas for us, we'd appreciate it. But here's another idea won't work for us.
I don't need any ideas. I'm going to be sitting there eating bonbons when I retire.
Your elbow grease their garage. Here's the business in a nutshell. People are renting out...
Wait a minute, say that slower. Your
elbow grease their garage. So you can rent a repair bay in a garage. In other words, you could
By the hour.
By the hour, $25.
Not by
No.
You're not going to own it for the month.
Well, you could, but it's $25 an hour. So you drive the car in there, it lifts it up. You can get under the hood if you want, or you can get under the car in the easiest possible way. They have some tools. They have a bunch of bays. They have a few guys walking around, like your brother could be if he owned the shop. He can give you a little advice, and you can do
kibitzing.
Yeah, kibitzing.
Little car kibitzing.
You got to use Yiddish if you're going to kibitz them. You can't kibitz in English, but
you can. Oh my God!
You walk around and you do major repairs, and they have this article saying, "Oh, gee, I had
You can do minor repairs.
You can do whatever you want, but to make it worth your while, the bigger the better, because you're paying for it, right?"
Right. But it's genius.
It is genius.
It's genius. You can take, old manufacturing facilities or, facilities not being used. It's not like it requires a lot of infrastructure, right? Yeah. You don't need a lot of bells and whistles.
Right.
I think there's got to be a need, especially somewhere like New Jersey. Think about New Jersey. It's more and more dense. People don't have a place where they might work on a car, and they might want to work on a car. But if you don't have enough room, if you live in an apartment, this gives you somewhere
New Jersey's the perfect place because it has the density on the one hand, but it's not so expensive real estate-wise that you'd say, no, we should put a clothing store there. I mean, you can possibly afford a site that you could do it. And you have.
I think there are all sorts of, formerly manufacturing
No,
situations.
it's even more than that. Yeah. Apparently, there are places that have the bays already there that got abandoned or that nobody's repairing cars there.
Old battery
old repair shops.
Yeah.
So apparently, people have found these places. They exist. So it's not like even you have an empty lot.
Well, I know.
This is for Brett.
I know there are gas stations all over the place. The kind of service station that used to have, used to repair your car as well.
Right.
And now a lot of them are just selling the gas. The old service
you can use the bay for that.
There. Yeah.
Well, there is a little bit of the Uber aspect to it. In other words, don't build, just locate and match up the empty bays with the people who need the bay.
Yeah.
Oh, this is genius.
So you do this, and you have in the office the 3D printer that can pop out the parts that are needed.
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So there are many fun aspects of the business.
Yeah. All right. So Bryce has got to get on this. You owe us, Bryce. You owe us. But then
a few little fun points about food, right?
Yeah, yes.
Ice cream.
We're going to talk about food more often from now on because Tamsen's a food expert.
Can I just say I'm a food expert?
He's a food expert.
I'm an expert eater, I'll say that. Can I just say I made some killer peach raspberry
well, you can't
ice cream.
If you're not going to say you're a food expert. If you're going to say...
I'm not an expert, but I know when I make a good thing.
All right. So
I've made a lot of bad things. I have made a lot of bad
Tamsen cooks stuff all the time. She makes ice cream all the time. It's always great, and she always says the same thing. This is not so good. But for the first time ever in recent memory, she made this ice cream today, which is called... What kind of ice cream is it? Peach ice cream?
Peach raspberry.
Peach raspberry. And she's walking around the house telling us what a great job she did. So
I was walking around saying, this is dangerous.
We're looking forward to this.
Ridiculous.
So you finally did something that's going to come out good.
It's my recipe. I invented it.
All right.
So it worked. But that means, you know what that means?
No, what?
It'll never work again.
Okay.
But anyway, so the article in the Wall Street Journal about ice cream cones.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of us, when we go and get a gelato or an ice cream,
right,
We go,
In a cup.
a baby scoop
In a cup.
in a cup.
Right.
And that's not the green choice.
It's bad for the environment.
That makes trash.
You know what you have to do?
So you got to get cones.
In a cup. Not a cup, in a cone. Because the cone, you eat the cone.
No, you eat the cone, but even if you don't, it goes back into the environment.
What do you mean if you don't? You're going to eat the cone.
A cone is pretty compostable.
Everyone's going to eat the cone.
It's not going to,
no one's throwing the cone
a
out.
A plastic spoon is going to be there forever.
Right.
The cone is going to just disappear even if you don't like it. So it's a win-win.
I'm eating the cone.
Okay.
But I get it. Yeah, okay, fine. All right. Good advice. But you had a lot more to say about wine.
This goes back to Virgil.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
When Aeneas was looking for a place to found Italy, and the prophecy is that you will know where you should, start Italy.
Yeah.
Essentially, when people eat, the men eat their containers.
Oh, yeah, really?
And so he notices that they're eating some food and it's wrapped in leaves. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, it's an old tradition of eating the container. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Wines? Talking about containers?
Wine in a can.
Wine in a can.
We talk about wine in a can like every week.
Yes. Okay. Yes, we do. And yet we're
finally,
going to do it again.
Finally, Letty Teague has been listening.
Letitia Teague, yes.
She's the writer. The wine writer for the Wall Street Journal. She decides to try a few. She points out some interesting things. And, this is really ramping up. It's not just particular wineries that are canning. There are also businesses cropping up, mobile, canning operations that will go from vineyard to vineyard and can your wines. Or places like, I think it's called bin to bottle, where you bring your wine to them.
Right, but,
and they process it. The trick about canning wine is really about the liner.
That's right.
Does the liner chemically interact with the wine and, destroy it or whatever?
And also, but you told me, no one likes to drink wine from a can.
Well, there's people discriminate about it, but if you could make it a good experience. But here's
you need
the other
a glass.
problems.
You need a glass. You need a cup or something.
Sometimes you do. They're trying to make a wine that will be tasty, even if you drink it right from the can, like beer drinkers and soda drinkers drink right from the can. Here's the problem. Yeah. If you drink right from the can, the opening is too small to give you the aromatics.
Yeah, okay.
And of course, the aroma of the wine contributes to the flavor.
Right.
So they're finding if they put a little nitrogen in the mix or something, it gives you
let me give you a little secret about
aroma.
that. Little secret is beer in a glass is much better too. So I think you're just going to need the glass for that.
The other thing is the cans are too big.
For what?
Because wine, may have beer has what 5 or 6 percent alcohol.
You mean the alcohol's too much?
Okay, so if you have the same size can,
it's twice as much alcohol.
About 375. If you have like half. About 375 milliliters or whatever it is. It's really, you're drinking twice as much alcohol generally as you might with a can of beer. So you're seeing smaller cans is one way to solve that.
Yeah, but
you're also seeing lighter, less alcoholic wines. We talked last week about the Lambruscos, the Frizzantes that are maybe 10%. So that you're seeing a lot of that. Here's what she likes. Wait. Wait. Okay, I'm taking questions at the end.
Yes.
Here's what she likes. Something called by Ramona, company called Ramona, called Ruby Grapefruit Wine Spritz. Yeah. Okay? She says it's fabulous. Okay. All right? She's a connoisseur. All right? It sounds silly, but she says it's delicious and she would bring it to any picnic. Also, there's a couple by a company called Frico. And I've seen these cans around. One's a Lambrusco, one's a Frizzante. And she said, those are great. They're low in alcohol. The juicy, dark, cherry-inflected Italian red is compulsively drinkable. And then a rosé called Dear Mom, called the Oregon Rosé. Sounds tasty as well. So, Okay. I don't know when we're going to see them. We don't see them so much around here.
Can I make my one point? You wouldn't know because of who you're married to? When you're talking about the alcohol being more alcohol, you're going to drink more alcohol with the same amount of wine. Some people drink 2 beers. Just so you know. Just want you to be aware of that.
But people, does that mean you still might, from a thirst point of view, you might want to drink 2 cans of wine?
Well, then you're in trouble.
Okay.
All right. So here's an article that caught both of our eyes.
I thought you were going to say that people are drinking more alcoholic beers these days.
I don't know. I can't say that.
There's more and more. You see that.
Well, but
it's not unusual now to see on the beer menu the alcoholic content.
Yeah.
Because some of them really pack a punch.
Yeah, but that's on a restaurant menu. I think if what do people buy at liquor stores? People buy a lot of Budweiser, and that's going to be 4%. The lagers are not going to be much, but you're right. The craft beers, the more ambitious beers, the IPAs, the Imperial IPAs, they're more alcoholic. But you know something? Guinness is only 4.3. That's all you need to know.
And it's better in a can.
It is better in a can. It's counterintuitive. Red Sky at Night. We saw the same article. We always have heard red sky at night, sailor's delight, red sky at morning, sailor take warning.
Right.
So the Times, after hearing this for 300 years, decides to look into it, and they decide it is true.
It's generally true in certain parts of the world.
Right.
Where the weather moves from west to east.
That's the key.
And that's where we are.
And they explain this, and we can't go... I don't want to go into this in depth because the diagram is so helpful, and this is audio. But the reason it is because the weather comes from the west, so at night, if there are clouds overhead, the sun in the west is going to be reflected off the clouds and show you red. It means the clouds are here, but it's clear to the west. That's the weather that's coming. Red sky at night, sailor's delight.
So the weather's going to clear up.
Right.
Okay.
And without going into too much detail, it's the reverse. Red sky at morning, because you have the sun to the right, and the way the clouds sit up and everything, it just comes out the other way. So if you see the red sky in the morning,
it means the clouds are on their way.
Exactly right.
The bad weather is on their way.
Yeah, we did pretty well with that. That's a tough explanation.
Moving right along.
That's right.
Hey! Here's what I read.
What?
Baseball mystery.
Yeah.
Why do players seem to live longer? Okay?
Yeah.
So the Wall Street Journal had... No. The New York Times.
Yeah, Times.
Had an article saying that baseball players, a review of major leaguers, like 10,000 baseball players.
I didn't know it was that big. Yeah.
Okay, 10,000 who died between 1979 and 2013. And what they gleaned from this survey was that players who... major league players...
They generally live 4 years longer.
4 years longer,
right.
Unless they had careers lasting longer than 11 years.
In which case they live even longer, probably.
They live 7 years
All right, but it's
longer. Okay, so baseball players...
Live
longer than average Americans.
Right, which is the opposite of football players.
Okay, which is interesting. And compared with pitchers, shortstops, and second basemen had lower rates of death from disease.
All right, so what this is a fun exercise in is that why? And you can attribute all kinds of traits to your theory as to why you think baseball players are living longer. And they play with that in the article a little bit.
Yes.
But the truth is they have no idea. I mean, one is that they're healthier or they pay more attention to their health. Maybe that's true.
They're more active.
Another is they make a lot more money than the average bear. And people with more money live longer.
Not all of them.
Not all of them. This is just on the average theory.
This goes way back in the old days when they weren't...
You know something? They weren't earning that much, but they were still making more money than the average bear.
Okay, so which players have the highest rate of mortality? With
outfielders.
Groin and urinary tract...
Catchers.
I
knew that. But catchers and outfielders...
It's highly elevated. Don't...
She's pointing to me.
So
I was a catcher. Yeah.
I know catching seems like the fun
No one
position,
thinks it's fun.
But,
Well, conversely, why is it the infielders live the longest? And their theory, which is, who knows, is that they're sort of smaller, lithe, athletic.
Nimble.
They don't make demands on the heart because they weigh 140 pounds.
But these are all theories. No one knows.
No one knows.
But here's an interesting thing, too.
Yeah, what's that?
Major leaguers, unlike professional football players, have no increased rates of dementia,
well, of course,
Alzheimer's, AML, or Parkinson's.
You know why that is?
Okay.
Because they're not playing football.
Right.
That would do it. But
football players have 3 times the rate
that's the times
of mortality
thing. Yes.
from those neurological.
Yes.
diseases.
Right.
So, I don't know why
Let me tell you
baseball
something.
players live so long.
Here's the stat they don't have. Baseball players live long, but their fans don't live that long. If you're a Met, you're going to do great. If you're a Met fan, it's not really the formula for a long life.
All kinds of
anxiety.
issues.
Exactly right. That's the one article I want to see. How long the baseball fans
live. So really,
live.
you're saying that your father was on blood thinners because of the Mets?
At least blood thinners, maybe more. Yeah, but in any event, so we close. We have an obituary, only one, and it's not someone I know, but it's just kind of an interesting story which caught my eye. A fellow named Piero Tosi, who died at the age of 92, who was a costume designer for Italian films. And they say
come on. You always love a good costume designer.
Yeah, and the his costumes carry me away in these movies. Well, not really, but then they say he outfitted Italian's biggest film stores. But here's the story that they say encapsulated his approach, and I just love this story. And it tells you a lot about Italy. You're the local Italy expert here. You tell me if this is not correct or this is not symptomatic of the way things go. So he gets his first job, right? And he has to basically come up with an outfit in a costume drama, or maybe even as a modern film, not a terribly historical costume drama, for Anna Magnani, who is the biggest star at the time in Italy, this very glamorous woman. And he is stymied. What is he going to design for Anna Magnani, particularly in the final scene where she walks off a train? And it's the critical moment. And he decides the way to do this is to go to the train station and watch women get off the train for hours until he sees someone who's wearing a coat that he thinks would work in the scene. How's that theory?
Okay.
So he goes and he sits by the train station. He waits for hours. And finally, one woman's coat struck him. I'm reading from the obit. He approached her and offered to buy it. The startled woman balked until he explained the coat would be for a film role for Anna Magnani, one of Italy's biggest stars. And here's quotes. And she looked at him, the Dr. Landis, who's a biographer, reported this. And she took off her coat and said, "For Anna Magnani, you can have my coat." How's that?
And did Anna wear it?
Yes.
Okay. And it had the desired effect?
Yes, exactly. So it tells you a lot. I think that's Italy to some degree, isn't it?
I think that's anywhere. I mean, if somebody walked up to you on the subway and said, can I buy that coat? Beyonce's going to use it in her next video. You would say, "Oh my God."
Yeah, here it
yes,
is.
Take it.
All right. Well, there it goes. But such a brilliant way for him to put a costume on in his very first job. Just amazing.
All right. So we've got peach ice cream to
We do.
eat. I'd like to sit here
I can't
gabbing
tell you
all day
again.
with you.
You've never been so excited about an ice cream you made. I'm excited now. We're going to skip dinner. We're going straight to the peach ice cream.
Yeah.
All right? Is that a deal?
It can't hurt. Okay, and then we're going to play some baseball so we live longer.
Hey, that's a good idea, too.
Do we have to have a contract
You're
to live
filled with
longer, or
ideas.
is it just about playing
And
baseball?
then we're getting Bryce an idea. We're going to open one of these auto bay places.
All right. We've got a very busy night ahead of us.
We'll see you next.
This is Tamsen Granger.
And Dan Abuhoff.
With Tamsen and Dan, read the paper. Bonsoir.